Ray Stevens there from 1971, turn your radio on. And in the studio today we've got a fellow who would love everybody to turn their radio on to 98.5. Welcome to Bevan Jones from 98.5 FM.
Great to be here, Alan. Thanks so much.
Yeah. So you're a community radio station?
Yep.
In Western Australia, or in Perth here at least, there are a plethora or a lot of community radio stations. What makes 98.5 distinctive?
The great thing about community radio, though, is we don't really compete, unlike commercial stations, in that, there's a lot of community radio stations around, but we actually get together a fair bit and actually work together because we've all got our different communities that we speak into. And our specific one, if you, according to the government guidelines, we're religious radio, or our community of interest, as they call it, is the Christian community of Western Australia. So that's probably our biggest niche. So that's the general. And out of that, we've also really focused on being positive and family friendly,
right? Much
like yourselves, in a way. Just that positive radio. I think we need more of it.
Right. Do you have a vision statement or a mission statement?
Yep. It's basically our vision is to engage the people of Western Australia with a positive message of hope in Jesus. So it's all the whole religious thing and Christian message of hope.
Yep.
So that's pretty well it is the positive message of hope. So, that's our guiding statement.
Right. What would be your target audience, Bevan?
As a radio person, the behind the radio, like commercial radio will say they aim for a 15-year demographic, so it might be 30 to 45-year-olds, or it might be 50 to 65-year-olds and all that. And we aim for the family market, so anyone that's sort of parents of younger children through to older children. But it's funny that we get a really broad range of audience. So, but generally, it's interesting when we talk about range of audience is that age-wise, we've kind of got 30 through 60 generally, a lot of listeners. And also, interestingly, even though we're a religious station, Christian station, about over 30% of our listeners don't have an actual faith or go to church or anything. They just tune in because they love, the positive feel to it.
Yeah, the interesting thing about having that broad spectrum of listening, you say from 30 to 60, different generations have a different taste in music. Yeah. So do you cater for a broad range of music?
Well, this is to let your listeners know that in the past you keep requesting music from the 60s for us to play that, and we don't. And I'm very sorry about that, Al.
You dip out there, boy.
There's hope for us yet, Al. Generally it's we do follow a lot of how you'd say commercial radio guidelines as to music. So we'll generally play music from that'll target our audience between the 30 and 60. So we'll play stuff from currently about the mid-80s through to current. And then there's other guidelines in our music, what we won't play and will play. But sort of frame-wise, it's positive or uplifting music, but it'll be from about mid-80s through to current music.
So just to give a bit of background to the question, last year I was working in a builder's office and there was about 3 or 4 girls working in the office and they were listening to the radio, and because I just tuned out. But then every now and again I heard this language alert.
Oh, yeah.
What's that? And apparently they have to do a language alert to alert people that there's some bad language coming up.
Yep.
But obviously, apart from bad language, there is the subject matter of songs. Do you have someone who goes through and vets all the songs before they're played?
Yeah, we have and maybe similar to yourself, but when you're community radio, you have to really, you have to be very wary of and care for the community that you are broadcasting to. So we've got programming committees about what shows can go to air. We've got a music committee as well. So the music committee reviews all the music, new music, and
they sit down and listen to it.
Yeah,
yep.
Listen to it, check the words, things like that. Because one of the key guiding principles is and speaking to all the parents out there, if you've ever had a small child in the car that's just learning to talk, and you're playing the radio and you forget that they absorb it all, next thing they're repeating something that was on the radio.
Yes.
I've been in that circumstance myself. You go, wow, so we aim to be safe for kids in the car. And also that gets down to, we do get feedback from parents that some songs, whereas there's not language, the theme...
The subject matter.
Like for say, a 10-year-old girl, and what's the example that song is setting for a 10-year-old girl and how she should, feel about herself. Mm. So we have a music committee. They review all the songs, make sure that they can't be generally not derogatory or stuff that's negative or isn't is bad for doesn't represent how we want to raise our children.
Right. With the commercial stations, they have ratings periods from time to time. How do you guys measure your audience?
We're actually really fortunate in that there's a couple of us community stations, including Curtin and I think RTR, that we're large enough to be able to afford surveys. So we get twice a year, we get surveyed through a McNair Ingenuity.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So we actually get proper surveys. We don't get the commercial radio survey people because commercial radio don't want us on the radar.
Yep.
But we have a survey company that do 2 surveys a year. So we actually get a good measure of who's listening, the numbers, the age groups, what their buying habits are, things like that, which actually helps us tailor more, know more about our audience, which is really good.
Mm. So what sort of numbers have you got listening to 98.5?
There's 2 key numbers in radio. There's what they call the weekly regular cume, and there's the monthly cume. So the weekly are the people that are tuning in every day. So of that, we've got about 130,000 listeners that are regular daily listeners.
Right.
And then over the whole month, people sort of tuning in every now and then. Our complete listener audience would be about 250,000.
250, yeah. Interesting, because Curtin Radio say that they've got an audience of 250,000, and I'm thinking, is that the same people listening every day, or is it a real figure?
Well, to be honest, Curtin Radio, theirs is probably the weekly. They have a very large audience. In fact, they have a larger audience than some of the AM stations.
Oh, is that right?
Which causes a bit of competition problems. But they've gone with a lot of older former media people,
yes,
and all of that.
Peter Waltham and
and they
Jenny
just play
Seaton
for seniors. They play great music and all of that. So they have got a bigger audience than us.
Right, interesting.
Yeah.
If you were approaching a prospective sponsor and they had a limited budget and were tossing up between you and, say, 96 FM,
yep,
how would you sell them?
Well, for us, I mean, the community radio runs on a lot less money than commercial radio. So we depend on about 55% donations, and we do depend about 40% on our sponsorship, our advertising. So we actually say don't stop advertising on 96 FM. We say, look, we're about probably between, we're a lot less to advertise on or promote on than 96. So we actually say take 1/10 of your budget and spend it with us. So you get both pools because we've got a very niche audience.
Yep.
You get their audience and you get ours for only 1/10, taking 1/10 of the budget.
Yep. So you talked about sponsorship. Now, I can remember back a long time before you were there, Bevan, when Sunshine Radio first kicked off. Members of the public were invited to become members or sponsors.
Yep.
And I remember I was actually one of the first
well done.
sponsors.
Thank you. Foundation member.
Yeah. There you go. Do you still do that?
Yeah, we have. We have members who are like any incorporated association. We've got members that also vote. So we're very accountable. I'm accountable to a board, and the board are accountable to the members. Right. How that works, but also most of them, like I said, the amazing thing is, and what a lot of commercial radio stations can't believe, is that, like I said, 55% of our income, which is considerable, comes through donations.
Right.
So there's members and voting members, but people that actually feel part of what we call a 98.5 family actually regularly give to ensure we're on air. So it's almost a strange form of subscription radio.
Yeah. And like a couple of, Curtin Radio and Capital, they both have annual or biannual now radiothons. Do you do the same sort of thing?
Yep, sure do. We try not to ask too much, but we have an end of financial year appeal. Yep. Luckily, we've got DGR charity status, which means it's tax deductible, so that helps us a lot. So we have an end of financial year June appeal, which is our big one. And then we have a smaller, in October, November, we do a radiothon, so the June appeal is more about the tax deductibility, and it's the radiothon in November, we have a bit of fun with that, in that it's for less money, but that's more for little special projects or like equipment we need. We need a new transmitter or something else. We do that, but we get a lot of the Perth media people and celebrities and well-known people in.
Oh, very good.
Which is really nice. So there's the likes of Rick Arden, Monica Koss, and a few other TV people that have actually, for the last probably 15 years, have come into our radiothons and really support us.
Excellent.
So it's amazing, the support for community-based radio. And, we've had the Premier in for a few and bits and pieces. So we make it kind of interesting with all the guests that come in with that, have a bit of fun with that one. Yeah.
Excellent. And recently you did a Water for Africa appeal. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so twice a year we ask for the listeners to reach into their pockets to support us. But then 4 other times of the year, we actually we partner with a lot of local and overseas charities. So four other times we'll ask them to dip into their pockets to help others. And I think that's the big difference about community radio, is it's not just for them, it's for the community and helping others. So Water for Africa is this, we had a space recently where we had room to ask, and this is a little charity we chose because for 12 years they've just been basically one couple and a few people set up in Tanzania.
Tanzania or Tanzania?
Gee whiz. I don't know where to go with that, Both versions, if it pleases everyone.
Yep.
So this guy, Phil, is just a retic guy who knew a bit about retic. He went to Africa and saw what a well could do for the whole village, clean drinking water. And if you see the water that have to go, and the stats of children dying from just dirty water is incredible over there. So we really felt for what they're doing. And it really gets down to basically every $5,000 raised is a well for another village, and it affects 2,000 people. Brings clean drinking water, can bring irrigation, all sorts of other stuff. So we had a fundraiser last week, called it Watering Day.
Yep.
And we get 2 watering days a week, but we called it Watering Day, was last Thursday. And it was simple, that every $2.50 given is one person given clean drinking water. And not just for a year, this is for 30 years, the life of a well. So we made it that simple, and we kind of didn't know what would happen because it's the first time we supported these guys. And so basically I think it equaled about nearly 35,000 people will get clean drinking water, and that's from the 98.5 family, we call it, have given donations. So that's 16 wells.
That's huge.
Yeah. So we're really pleased. We do that. We do our Heart for the Homeless appeal as well during the year for local homeless people. We work with charities in Perth and a few other things. But to do something for overseas impact was really good. So we were surprised. I think everyone was surprised. And definitely Water for Africa guys were surprised too.
Yeah. So what did that equate to in dollars?
I think about nearly 85,000.
In one day?
Yeah. What we've known for the last, I mean, we've been going for 35 years or something. What we known is that Perth people are incredibly generous. So, you see Telethon, and I think Telethon still has that stat that per capita, West Australians are the most generous people on the planet.
Yep.
Well, that also equates, and we can, for that, we're just a community radio station, but we can operate at a fair size because of the generosity of Perth people. But whenever we ask them to contribute to homeless people or CBM, another one for cataract operations overseas, or Samaritan's Purse, or any of these, Operation Christmas Child, all these kind of things, charities we partner with, the 98.5 listeners and generally Perth people jump on board. So we've got an incredibly generous community out there in WA, and I'm really proud of it.
So it really means that the community in community radio means something pretty special. Yeah.
That's what I love. The difference is, sure, we struggle probably financially and we don't have the budgets of the commercial radio, but I'm proud of what community radio does. And not just 98.5. I'm proud of, 6EBA doing, ethnic radio and RTR Arts, and you guys here and all that. You're here for a reason, and it's not for shareholders. It's not for money. It's to make an impact in your community.
Right.
So that's what I love about community radio.
Now, as you appreciate, we're a very small organisation here. We've only been going a couple of years. With your vast experience with community radio, what sort of advice would you give us?
It doesn't happen instantly, but if you're clear about who you're broadcasting to and you have a genuine a genuine goal of actually bringing something to people's lives. So I'd put it to you, what's Inspire IPL Radio all about, Al?
Inspiring passionate lives. It's for mental health. That's where it started.
Yep.
And
look, and I think when I heard about this, because I followed this station when it just started, I was really happy and inspired. Like I said, community radio there's no competition in it. We actually go, wow, because mental health, as you know, is just a growing problem.
Yep.
Someone said, if you're West Australian, you are in the top 3% richest people in the world.
Yes, we are.
But we've got one of the highest percentages per capita of mental health issues and suicide. And so to see, you guys actually going, no, we're going to do something about this. We're going to bring positive feel and positivity, and we're going to combat mental health is really key. So I think your guys' message is really key. I think as you guys go on, I don't know at the moment, but I think more and more people will love what you're doing and want to support it. And it'll just be this growing community of support. And I'd love to see you guys actually get a community license. I know it's hard dealing with the government.
It'd make a huge difference,
Yeah. I know it's really hard sometimes with the government, but, myself, I'd be supporting that, for the Rockingham and surrounding areas, even if it was a community license, that would be great. And, I mean, what government doesn't want to say that they're supporting mental health initiatives?
Absolutely.
So it's that thing, I mean, 98.5 or Sunshine been going 35 years, and it really wasn't till after about 15, 20 years of it operating that they really started to actually grow a lot.
When we were talking about music, we never actually touched on Christian music.
Yeah.
What component of Christian music would you have on your show?
Yeah, we do this, what they call mixed content. So, say in the US, the Christian radio stations in the US don't get it. They play all Christian music. We're deliberately mixed content where we want to be a bridge to those, for those that aren't Christian or don't have faith. So we actually play minimum it's up to about 40% Christian artists,
right?
Christian music, and the rest is just secular. But like I said, it goes through that filter of positive, uplifting, or challenging, or good music that's not bad music, if you know what I mean.
And so you're limited to this time frame of 1985. So if you had a really good song, gospel song that was before 1985, would you play it?
Look, to be honest, we do, because this is between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. We play what we call our mix of, probably 35% Christian artists, 1985 through now. We do have niche shows. So in the jazz show on Friday nights, we've got jazz classics that go way back. Yep. I do a show on Sunday mornings called Great Hymns of the Faith, right, and that does go right back.
Yes,
to the probably artists from the 40s and 50s right through now, modern artists. So we do dip into your era there, Al. Just so you know.
Yep, that's good. That's good.
And of course we've got country show and other ones that play older stuff as well. Because how could you have a country show without Slim Dusty?
I say that's a good point. I'm going to play a song in a minute. Unfortunately, we won't be able to put it on the videotape. It was written in 1951 by a guy called Stuart Hamblin. Are you familiar with Stuart Hamblin?
The name.
Well, interesting story. I'm going to tell you the story before we go off air.
Yeah.
He was one of the original singing cowboys back in the Tom Mix, Gene Autry type era.
Yes, Gene Autry.
Yep, and anyway, he eventually ended up on radio and was a very popular radio presenter. Unfortunately, he had a drinking problem, and he was constantly getting fired off the radio stations because of his drinking problem. But because he was so popular, the sponsors kept persuading the radio stations to re-employ him.
Yeah.
In 1949, he went to a Billy Graham crusade, got born again, and now he was getting sacked because he wouldn't support the beer advertisements. But he was a great songwriter as well, and in 1951 he wrote a song called "It Is No Secret What God Can Do."
I know the song.
You know the song? Well, I'm going to play it for you now from Elvis Presley.